Have you ever wondered what it's like to be the most famous person alive? To have your face recognized by millions, to have your every move scrutinized by the media, to have your name on everyone's lips. It's a life that's both exhilarating and exhausting, a life that's filled with endless possibilities and crushing pressures. In this video, we're going to explore what it's like to be the most famous person alive, to delve into the highs and lows of a life in the spotlight. Imagine waking up every morning to a sea of paparazzi outside your window, their cameras clicking away as you try to start your day. Imagine having to wear a mask of confidence and charisma, even on your worst days, because the world is always watching. Imagine having to make every public appearance count, every interview, every speech, every gesture, because it's all going to be analyzed and dissected by the media and the public. It's a heavy burden to carry, but it's one that comes with the territory of being the most famous person alive. But it's not all bad, of course. There are perks to being famous, and they're not insignificant. You get to meet incredible people, to experience things that most people can only dream of, to have a platform to make a real difference in the world. You get to attend exclusive events, to walk the red carpet, to be treated like royalty. And let's not forget the financial rewards, the lucrative endorsement deals, the massive paychecks for movies and TV shows. It's a life of luxury and privilege, and it's one that many people would kill to have. But with great power comes great responsibility, and being the most famous person alive is no exception. You have to be mindful of your actions, of the impact they could have on your fans, on your colleagues, on the wider world. You have to be a role model, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're tired or stressed or just want to be yourself. You have to be aware of the messages you're sending, of the values you're promoting, of the example you're setting. It's a weighty responsibility, and it's one that can be overwhelming at times. And then there's the scrutiny, the constant, relentless scrutiny. Every move you make is under a microscope, every word you say is analyzed and parsed. Every decision you make is questioned and criticized. It's like living in a fishbowl, with the whole world watching your every move. It's a level of attention that would be unbearable for most people, but it's one that the most famous person alive has to endure every day. And it's not just the media, of course, it's the public too, the fans who feel like they own a piece of you, who feel like they have a right to know everything about your life. It's a strange kind of intimacy, this relationship between the famous and the fans. On the one hand, it's a connection that can be incredibly powerful, a sense of shared experience and community that can transcend borders and boundaries. On the other hand, it's a connection that can be incredibly invasive, a sense of ownership that can be suffocating. The most famous person alive has to navigate this complex web of relationships, has to balance the need for connection with the need for privacy, has to find a way to be themselves in a world that's constantly trying to define them. So what's it like to be the most famous person alive? It's a life of contradictions, of extremes, of impossible choices. It's a life that's both thrilling and terrifying, exhilarating and exhausting. It's a life that's full of possibilities, but also full of pitfalls. It's a life that requires a level of resilience and adaptability that's rare in most people. And yet, despite all the challenges, despite all the pressures, it's a life that many people would still kill to have. Because when it comes down to it, being the most famous person alive is not just about the fame, it's about the impact you can have, the difference you can make, the legacy you can leave behind. In this video, we're going to explore all these themes and more, to delve into the complexities of a life in the spotlight. We're going to look at the history of fame, at the ways in which it's changed over time, at the ways in which it stayed the same. We're going to examine the psychology of fame, at the ways in which it can affect your mental health, your relationships, your sense of self. We're going to talk to experts, to celebrities, to people who have experienced the highs and lows of fame firsthand. And we're going to ask the big questions, the questions that get to the heart of what it means to be the most famous person alive. So join us on this journey, as we explore the fascinating, frustrating, and sometimes frightening world of fame. It's a world that's full of surprises, full of contradictions, and full of insights into the human condition. And it's a world that we're excited to explore, to examine, and to share with you. As we delve deeper into the life of the most famous person alive, we start to notice the subtle yet profound ways in which fame shapes their every waking moment. From the moment they wake up in the morning, they're faced with a barrage of decisions, each one carefully calibrated to minimize the risk of misinterpretation, misquotation, or worse, misrepresentation. Every word, every gesture, every facial expression is scrutinized, analyzed, and magnified to an absurd degree. The pressure to constantly perform, to be on, at all times, is crushing, a weight that's both exhilarating and exhausting. The simplest tasks become Herculean challenges, as every move is tracked, recorded, and dissected by an insatiable media machine. Going to the grocery store, for example, is no longer a mundane chore, but a carefully choreographed event, complete with paparazzi, security details, and strategically placed, accidental, encounters with adoring fans. Even the most basic human needs, like eating, sleeping, and using the bathroom, require meticulous planning, lest they be splashed across the front pages of tabloids and social media feeds. The loss of anonymity is a steep price to pay for fame, and one that can never be fully recovered. Despite the chaos and cacophony that surrounds them, the most famous person alive has learned to adapt, to navigate this treacherous landscape with a mixture of guile, humor, and resignation. They've developed a keen sense of self-preservation, a radar that alerts them to potential threats, real or imagined, and a quick wit that allows them to defuse even the most tense situations. But at what cost? The constant need to be vigilant, to be aware of one's surroundings at all times, is a heavy burden to bear, one that can lead to feelings of paranoia, anxiety, and disconnection from the world around them. As we follow the most famous person alive through their daily routine, we start to notice the tiny cracks in their facade, the subtle hints of vulnerability that betray the confident, self-assured exterior. We see the faint glimmer of fear in their eyes, the hesitation before speaking, the nervous laughter that masks a deeper unease. We sense the weight of responsibility, the crushing pressure to constantly deliver, to perform, to entertain, and to inspire. We feel the strain of living in a fishbowl, of being constantly observed, critiqued, and judged, and the toll it takes on their mental and emotional well-being. And yet, despite the challenges, the most famous person alive perseveres, driven by a fierce determination to stay relevant, to stay ahead of the curve, and to stay in the public eye. They're fueled by a potent mix of ego, ambition, and a deep-seated need for validation, a need that can never be fully satisfied, no matter how many accolades, awards, or accolades they receive. They're trapped in a never-ending cycle of craving and consumption, a cycle that's both self-sustaining and self-destructive. As we explore the inner workings of their mind, we start to uncover the complex web of motivations, desires, and fears that drive them. We see the deep-seated insecurity that fuels their need for validation, the fear of failure that haunts their every move, and the desperate desire to be loved, to be accepted, and to be understood. We sense the tension between their public persona and their private self, the struggle to reconcile the two, and the toll it takes on their relationships, their health, and their overall well-being. The most famous person alive is a paradox, a bundle of contradictions, a walking, talking, breathing enigma. They're both confident and insecure, fearless and fearful, generous and selfish. They're a shapeshifter, a chameleon, a master of disguise, and a virtuoso of reinvention. They're a product of their environment, a creature of their own making, and a reflection of our collective hopes, fears, and desires. They're a mirror held up to humanity, a funhouse mirror that distorts, exaggerates, and reveals our deepest flaws and our highest aspirations. As we continue on this journey, we'll delve deeper into the psyche of the most famous person alive, exploring the hidden recesses of their mind, the secret fears that haunt them, and the private struggles that they face. We'll examine the ways in which fame has shaped them, distorted them, and transformed them into the person they are today. We'll investigate the intricate web of relationships that surrounds them, the network of handlers, managers, and advisors who help them navigate the treacherous waters of fame. And we'll ask the question, what does it mean to be the most famous person alive, and what does it cost to stay on top? As we delve deeper into the world of the most famous person alive, it becomes clear that their life is a complex tapestry of relationships, obligations, and pressures. Every move they make is scrutinized, every word they utter is analyzed, and every decision they take has consequences that ripple far beyond their own life. The handlers, managers, and advisors who surround them are a mix of seasoned professionals, opportunistic hangers-on, and genuine well-wishers. Some are driven by a desire to help the famous person navigate the chaos of their world, while others are motivated by a desire to exploit their fame for personal gain. One of the most significant challenges that the most famous person alive faces is the constant need to perform. Every public appearance, every interview, every social media post is a performance, carefully crafted to maintain the illusion of perfection that their fans expect. They must be on all the time, always ready to smile, wave, and charm their way through the endless scrutiny of the media and the public. This can be exhausting, both physically and emotionally, and it's not uncommon for the most famous person alive to feel like they're living in a constant state of siege. They may have millions of fans, but they're also under constant attack from critics, trolls, and stalkers who seek to bring them down. Despite the challenges, many people would still kill to be in the shoes of the most famous person alive. They see the fame, the fortune, the adoration of millions, and they think it must be the ultimate dream come true. But the reality is far more complex. The most famous person alive is often trapped in a gilded cage, with every move they make dictated by the demands of their fame. They may have the power to influence millions, but they're also subject to the whims of their fans, their managers, and the media. They're constantly walking a tightrope, balancing their own desires and needs against the expectations of others. As we've seen, being the most famous person alive comes with a steep price tag. They may have all the material possessions they could ever want, but they've also lost something fundamental: their sense of self. They're a product, a brand, a commodity to be bought and sold. They're no longer just a person, but a symbol, an icon, a representation of something greater than themselves. This can be a heavy burden to bear, especially when the pressure to constantly perform and produce becomes overwhelming. The most famous person alive may have millions of fans, but they're often desperately lonely, disconnected from the world around them by the very fame that's supposed to bring them closer to others. The answer is complex, multifaceted, and ultimately deeply personal. For some, the fame and fortune are worth the price they pay in terms of their mental and emotional health. They're willing to sacrifice their sense of self, their relationships, and their well-being in order to stay in the spotlight. For others, the cost is too high, and they eventually burn out, retreat from the public eye, or even worse, succumb to the pressures of fame. As we conclude this journey into the world of the most famous person alive, we're left with more questions than answers. Is the fame and fortune worth the cost to their mental and emotional health? Can they ever truly be themselves, or are they forever trapped in the persona they've created? And what about the rest of us, the fans and the followers who contribute to the frenzy of fame? What's our role in this complex web of relationships, and how can we support and uplift the famous people we admire, rather than contributing to their exploitation and objectification? Ultimately, the story of the most famous person alive is a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition, the corrupting influence of power, and the importance of staying grounded and true to oneself. It's a reminder that fame and fortune are not the only measures of success, and that true happiness and fulfillment come from within. As we watch the most famous person alive navigate the treacherous waters of their world, we're reminded of the importance of empathy, compassion, and kindness. We're reminded that even the most famous people are still human beings, deserving of respect, dignity, and understanding. So let's take a step back and reconsider our relationship with fame and celebrity culture. Let's think about the ways in which we contribute to the frenzy of fame, and the ways in which we can support and uplift the famous people we admire. Let's recognize that the most famous person alive is not just a symbol or an icon, but a human being, with all the complexities and vulnerabilities that come with being alive. And let's strive to create a world where fame and fortune are not the only measures of success, but where kindness, empathy, and compassion are valued above all else. By doing so, we can create a more just, more equitable, and more compassionate world, where everyone has the opportunity to thrive, regardless of their level of fame or fortune.